Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Council Sessions here on the Inside the Force YouTube channel. I am Dave Cottingham with Cyber Ren. How are you, sir?
Back in my own galaxy, yes.
Oh, yeah. What, is this the first thing we've done since you left? No.
Well, the first thing on your show, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did a pair of Mandalores, but yeah.
That's right. So, yes, you're way back north, east, west somewhere. So
the star system of Calgary. It's another weird sounding word. Yeah.
That's right. Thanks everybody for joining us. We've got an interesting topic to talk about here on Council Sessions. But just a reminder that we are gearing up for the return of Star Wars on Disney Plus, as Skeleton Crew will be debuting here in a couple weeks.
I'm excited.
We are going to be covering that on the Mandalore podcast. So go check that out. And we'll be talking about, I am getting a little bit more excited about that show. They released a little roundtable thing today, and I think they got some really knowledgeable filmmakers that have made it. So,
and did you see the interview they just released? Comicbook.com just released an interview with Jude Law, the creators and directors, and the kids. And it's a fantastic interview.
Okay, I'll watch that too. Yeah, so getting excited about that.
Yeah.
But on this episode of Council Sessions, we want to kind of break down, what we do on here is we kind of tackle the most important or hard questions, complex questions to answer in the galaxy. And I thought about this one because we talked about this on Inside the Force a little bit, where there was an article that came out a few weeks ago that basically talked about Rey Skywalker, Daisy Ridley's character.
Yep.
And the fact that it seems like Lucasfilm is going to start trying to work that character in several Star Wars films that are in development. Me and Hannah kind of talked through the number of development films right now, and it's probably around 8 or 9 films that are being talked about now. Mandalorian and Grogu is the only one we know for sure is definitely coming out,
right?
Which she is not a part of. But if you want to talk about those 9, there's probably like 5 or 6 of them that could potentially contain the character of Rey. Now, not necessarily be focused on Rey, but at least have a presence of Rey Skywalker, because they are characterizing her as, quote, the most valuable cinematic asset that they possess.
Yes.
So basically this main topic here, or main question we're going to answer, is who do we think actually, if they even have one, who do we think is the most cinematic asset? But first, let's answer that question. Cyber Ren, do you think Rey is actually the most valuable cinematic asset that Lucasfilm and Star Wars has?
In the way that I'm going to explain it, I will say yes.
Whoa, okay.
It's the terminology is weird. Like, who wants to ever be called the cinematic asset? Because that makes you sound like a piece of property. So it's just really strange.
Yeah, the most valuable. The most valuable, though.
So let me, because I listened to you and Hannah talk about it, and I do have kind of a counter. So I have some thoughts to some things you guys were saying. I got a little sticky note here with all my ideas on it. So if you see me looking, that's what I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything. So here's my defense for Rey, in a sense that she is a valuable asset to Star Wars going forward from the point of the sequels and beyond. I mean, we have so many different timelines that we can tell stories of, way back to the old Republic days and whatever. Like, there's still various paths that Star Wars can take, but looking to the future, Rey is the most valuable asset, and I'll tell you why. It's because she is our new Luke Skywalker. She's this generation's Luke Skywalker. We had Luke for all of us, and then the prequels came out. There's a whole generation behind us that group of trios is, Anakin was their Luke Skywalker, And now we've got yet another generation of fans that are just learning about Star Wars. Rey is their Luke Skywalker. Here's the trick. This is why I agree that she is the asset, is because what happened with Star Wars, the original trilogy, and then we got the prequels, and we waited 40 years before we got Luke, Han, and Leia back. Way too much time passed, and they all got old, so we missed the opportunity to tell all of the stories that we wanted to see. All of the stuff that Luke, everything that we've been wanting Luke to do. Build a Jedi Academy, build a Jedi Temple, explore the galaxy looking for Jedi artifacts and relics, looking for surviving Jedi, doing all of those stories we missed out on because Mark Hamill got too old and they can't go back and do it again. But they have Rey. They have Daisy Ridley. She's the perfect age to be able to continue telling those stories and get basically what they can do is transfer everything that we missed with Luke into Rey's story arc going forward so that they don't miss the time again. They don't miss that opportunity. If they let another 40 years go by, then they've missed it again. They have Daisy Ridley now in the perfect age to be able to grow that character. As she ages, the character of Rey can also age and grow to become the Jedi Master, the Jedi, to whatever, nice ripe old age of Obi-Wan Kenobi, whatever. We can watch that growth while they have her. If they lock Daisy Ridley up, we can follow that path. And she gets to go. She can explore the galaxy, look for Jedi artifacts, look for relics, build the temple, train the Jedi. Everything we wanted Luke to do, Rey can actually do it. So I think for that argument alone, that's what makes her a very strong asset for Star Wars. And of course, we need the good writers, we need the good directors, we need somebody in charge of the stories that has a cohesive plan, that's going to tell a complete story and not have different minds come in every single movie and they completely change it up, which is what happened with the sequels. So I think that is my defense for why I think Rey is a fantastic asset for them going forward in the timeline that she's in.
Interesting. Okay. So
I was thinking about that today quite a bit. So
you so you're kind of on the side of the fence right now that you agree with the article that it's a good idea for them to incorporate her in several films that are in development.
Because of everything I just said, but also because me personally, I'm a fan. Like it's also everybody's personal taste, but I loved the Rey character. I love Daisy Ridley. Argumentatively speaking, like I think she's one of the best performers, one of the best actors Star Wars has ever had. If you truthfully look at the original trilogy, the acting's pretty stiff. The acting's pretty, like, it's not the greatest performances. And, the prequel trilogy had we had Samuel L. Jackson, we had Ewan McGregor, everybody talks about Hayden being a little bit stiff back then. So I don't think overall the acting was the greatest, but when you look at the sequel trilogy, the guy that played, why can't I think of his name now? The guy that played Kylo. His performance was fantastic.
Yeah,
Daisy was just
Adam Driver.
Amazing. Yeah, Adam Driver. They were very able to express emotion like we've never seen in Star Wars before. They're also very physical. Like Star Wars continued to get more and more physical, whether it was lightsaber fights or performing stunts or whatever. It got more and more physical. So I think her character and her acting and her performing is just something we've never had in Star Wars before. So I really like Daisy Ridley, but I liked Rey too. Like I said, she's this generation's Luke Skywalker. You can't blame a lot of the faults of the sequel trilogy on the Rey character. You blame the writing, you blame the directing and what happened, what they did with those movies. But take Rey out of that and look at her. Like, she's a fantastic character. There's so much that she can do. There's so much going forward. Like, she's the future of the Jedi. They put that weight on her shoulders. She is the future of the Jedi. So I think they can, if you just have the right people in place, they can do so much with her character. She's just, the way I like to look at the sequel movies was just her origin story. It was just her beginnings. They introduced her. We watched her go through her trials and her tribulations, and then she came out the end as the next and the newest Jedi. She's not a master. She's not she just became a Jedi. She just learned what she needed to learn to make the right choice, to go with the light side, and now her future is wide open. Her story is not complete. That's the only thing I disagreed with Hannah on is her story is not complete. her story's wide open now.
Yeah. Yeah. But where I feel like you are, I guess, in disagreement and a little bit about what the article is talking about is that you're wanting to you're wanting to almost continue the Skywalker saga in a sense because you want to focus on Rey's character, whereas it seems like they are just wanting to add her to these other stories. Almost like an Obi-Wan character is what they sounded like the kind of the side character or the mentor, not necessarily the focus of the story.
Sure. Yeah. So she would be what Alec Guinness was to the main cast.
Kind of.
In a sense. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you could, she doesn't have to really continue the Skywalker story. The Skywalker saga itself is done. Yeah, she took on his name at the end, but she has a whole story of her own to tell. It has nothing to do with what happened with Luke and Anakin. Like her story, like I said, it was her origin. Now it's beginning. So her story can go anywhere. It doesn't have to have anything to do with Anakin
but the sequel trilogy was about her. So it was this. She's part of the Skywalker saga, right? So if you continue mainly about her, then you technically would be making, I think, 10, 11, and 12 if you were to do it.
Yeah, you could, and I mean, I would be happy with either. If they want to make 10, 11, 12 and continue the story from that point, sure. But if they want to have a little bit of time pass in the storyline and she's already accomplished some things, and then her story, we catch up to wherever she is, and it's just part of whatever stories happen. Because you guys mentioned on the show, you look at the future. We have no idea what's coming in this timeline. That they've never written anything beyond that in canon. I mean, yes, in all the old books, there's stuff that's 100 years past, but in canon, there's nothing at this point in the timeline. So, who's going to be the new bad guy? Do you just reintroduce new Sith? Do you introduce a new bad guy? And we've talked about that before. If you bring in a whole new, I don't know, pirates or whatever, a new something that can counter the Force,
right?
Whatever.
Right.
It doesn't have to be Jedi versus Sith. It can be something new, and she could be just part of the new battle, whatever it is. But you could go either way. So I mean, do a new trilogy, sure. Do 10, 11, 12. Do something completely different where she's still the focal point, sure. Go that way. I agree with the part of her being the most valuable asset because they have her now, and now's the opportunity to continue the story without losing that chance again, like they did with Luke. But.
Well, I think, look, I agree in the sense that she's definitely a good character. I think that I definitely don't think that she was overall, and you can blame it on the entire trilogy maybe, but the overall entire trilogy was not embraced as much as obviously the original trilogy kind of stands on its own, but it kind of went through the prequel stage where the fandom really didn't enjoy it that much, and there was a lot of flaws in it. And with that, sometimes characters tend to be forgotten and easily dismissed. I think that Rey kind of falls in the middle of that, even though a lot of people I think do like her character, and obviously Daisy Ridley is a very lovely person and a very, very good actress. With the right story, sure, I think she can definitely thrive, and Star Wars fans can maybe get behind that. But I don't know, because I don't know how much. Unfortunately, I don't know how much, because again, we're going to talk about it's not necessarily popularity, but it's how valuable is the character to be able to draw the fans back into the theaters. And I don't know, because of the bad taste that people have from the sequels, I don't know how much of them will actually give this a shot, unfortunately. And that's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because the fan base, like if they're turned off one way, they just don't believe in the next thing, right? So unfortunately, in that sense, I don't think she's the most valuable asset that Lucasfilm has. I think that even the fact that they're not even thinking about using her as a focal point, because if she is the most valuable asset, then you would write the stories about her. You wouldn't.
Makes sense.
You wouldn't make her an Obi-Wan side character and only just have her in there as supporting. She needs to be the focal point if she's the most valuable asset. You need to write the best movie you can around that character.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I think that she could become the most valuable asset, depending on the value, of the film and how much the money, how much success, how much people get back into it. Yeah. But until that rise, I don't think she is. So who do I think is out there as the most valuable cinematic assets right now? I gotta say, a possibility is someone I think is riding the highest popularity in Star Wars right now, at least right now. I think Ewan McGregor right now and Obi-Wan Kenobi is very popular. Mm-hmm. I think, and he is arguably one of the best actors in Hollywood. So could you make a film or some series of films about Obi-Wan, and would that actually be, will that lead to box office success? Could he be a big enough star? Because we know he's a star. He's done a ton of movies. And I wonder if that would work. Now, the downside of that, I think you can possibly make the argument, is that it works kind of well because you have Hayden as well. And Hayden has been kind of his, yin and yang right now.
Counterparts, yeah.
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 When you have Obi-Wan, you got Vader, and when you've got Ewan, you've got Hayden, and that reemergence of Hayden in the industry and the Star Wars fandom, embracing him like we have. Like I've never seen people care about Hayden as much as they have in the last 5 years.
Yeah, he's at the height right now.
Yeah,
sure.
And so that that's a big draw to me right now. I think the popularity of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus obviously has led to the attempt to see if he is a cinematic asset.
Yep.
But is he anything without Grogu? So is that a pair that has to be kind of stuck together to make them valuable, right? Does Mandalorian actually stand alone? I'm not sure, because everywhere we see, even the posters for the movie have both of them in it.
Yeah.
The movie's called The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, are they together your most valuable cinematic assets?
Yeah.
So, I've been, and then obviously I think Ahsoka's got a massive following. I think there's not a lot of fans that wouldn't say they like Ahsoka, and Ahsoka, I think you're hitting on all generations, because I think our generation has grown to love Ahsoka. And then you have the younger generation, Hannah's generation, which is behind us, that loves it. But then you got my daughter's generation that loves Ahsoka, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think I question whether or not she's a cinematic asset, right? I think she's a Star Wars asset, but I don't know if she's a cinematic asset. So
that's a tricky wording. That's what I mean.
It's So here's my conclusion after assessing kind of those characters, which I think are the most popular characters right now at this point in time in Star Wars. I think it's actually quite obvious who the actual most valuable cinematic asset is.
Okay.
And it's been like this it's been this person ever since the beginning. And I think it's hand down. I don't think it'll ever change. And I think it's a no-brainer that is Darth Vader.
Darth Vader. That was hanging on my tongue. I knew you were going to go there.
That is the most iconic, one of the most iconic characters ever. And think about the times that we've seen Vader. Does anybody ever not want to see Darth Vader? You put him, now here's the thing. What he hasn't had is his own film. He's just been that evil villain.
Yeah.
But
essentially, he's been a supporting character. He hasn't been a main character. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But everybody loves this character. And now that we know his full story, Anakin turning to the dark side, to taking the name Darth Vader, growing as he did and fighting and having twins, and then being redeemed by his son. I mean, it's a great story, but there's stories that I've read in the comics and in the books. I mean, you can do so much with that character still. And I can't think of a single Star Wars fan that would not want to see a film centered around Darth. I mean, think about it. It's like Infinity War centered around Thanos.
Yeah.
Like, people fell in love with Thanos, even though he's the villain.
But a lot of people agreed with what he was trying to do.
Well, it was a great story. Yeah. It was a great way of writing how they turned that around into a sympathetic story of him.
Oh yeah.
And we've got that with the prequels. We got the sympathetic story of Darth Vader and why he became who he became. So I think just the iconic vision of Vader, the character of Vader and what drives him, which I think the part that a lot of people still don't know, which is only really in the comics and the books and in the VR game, is that he's still driven by the loss of Padme and the undying, relentless pursuit to try to find that reunion again. Like, that is something that even existed towards the original trilogy. It's like that part. I mean, there's so much there that I think that we could get. And I'm, just when I was thinking about it more and more tonight, and, I was like, God, you want to make money in the movie theaters, you put Darth Vader in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? You agree or don't agree?
I don't disagree. I agree. See, and that's the thing. I only presented my case about Rey because it's not like I'm taking you to court and fighting you on this whole thing. It's just one perspective.
Yeah, sure.
So to dial it back to everything you said, if I can even remember everything you said. So yes, the sequels weren't hugely well. I mean, they were successful and they made money, but they divided the fans. Like that's where the fan divide really started happening. So I'm trying to take Rey away from that, and let's just look at her as the character of Rey herself. She's fantastic. The sequels, up and down, right? So maybe not so much. So I agree with you that because if you look at the sequels as a whole and what they did to the fan base, yes, she probably isn't the most valuable because fans might not be as attached to her,
right?
Due to the success. But I do think Rey is a good enough character that if they had the right creatives behind it, they could do something well with her. So now you dial it back to Anakin, to Vader, to Obi-Wan, the points that you brought up. Yes, the popularity of Ewan McGregor right now and all this talk and this hype about are they doing an Obi-Wan season 2, things like that. And we've heard in the background that Hayden Christensen has signed on for some long-term deal to do more Star Wars projects. So they're obviously thinking along these lines that, do we tell more Anakin stories or do we tell more Vader stories with him playing Vader? Mm-hmm. Those would be all successful, but the only problem that I have with doing Obi-Wan and Anakin and Vader is it's very limited. We already know the ending to all of their stories. So you're very confined to where you can fit in another movie. Like Vader, it would obviously have to be his search for Padme, his search for answers, all that kind of thing. It could be a single standalone movie. You wouldn't be able to do a trilogy like that. It would be a single standalone movie of Vader's quest to solve those answers he couldn't find. Obi-Wan
you can do a dozen movies with Vader. There's so much time.
But I'm just trying to give the perspective that it's limited because we all know the outcome. And diehard fans like you and me and those of our listeners, we would be into all of it. But the casual fans out there, there's a lot of people, you have to admit, they'll be like, I know how it ends. I'm not as interested.
I don't agree with that because every like right now, I mean, even with most of these characters, like Obi-Wan, is like you said, if he's so popular, I mean, everybody knows the outcome, right? So, but they're even thinking about still doing a season 2 because it's because in the end, it's not about how it ends, right? It's the journey of how you get there.
That's the story I want to tell, is the journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think a TV series would be better platform for that than a movie for those characters, I think, because it gives us more time to flesh out. Give us 8 episodes of Vader, give us 8 episodes of Obi-Wan, bring them together for another show or something.
But you can't make that money. You can't make that money on Disney Plus like you would in the theaters.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an issue for the shareholders. So,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't disagree with you. The popularity is the popularity is there.
So if they put a movie out, one starring Vader, one starring Rey, which one makes more money?
You would, I mean, based on your argument, you would think Vader.
I think it's hands down as easy.
Yeah. It's hard for me to gamble on that. I think if both movies are good, I think they both would do well. But I also think like Grogu and Mandalorian, that's a gamble right now. Arguably the most successful thing they've done in Disney Plus. Now they're trying to take that popularity and transition to the big screen. If that ends up doing really well, they're never going to come back to Disney. They're going to be like, all right, more movies of Mando and Grogu. Because that'll be
it's
their
possible.
property, right?
That's possible. That's possible. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think a standalone movie of Vader, of his journey, and like just give us a glimpse of what we got at the end of Rogue One. That's what people want. That would get you the success for sure.
Yeah, I don't even think that. I think you have to go back and start. I think you have to go start right after episode 3 and see where, how he grew into being this villain of the galaxy that everybody thought was a myth.
Now that I could see a trilogy for sure if you start from that point.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can do a dozen movies between episodes 3 and 4.
Yeah.
There's 19 years in there.
Which we've always talked about. There's such a huge time gap.
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot of comics. They did a comic series like right after episode 3. But again, you don't. Comics are, it's just one part of it. You can venture off from that, but there's so much about his castle, about the building of his castle, and what dark side energy is there. Yeah. Again, the quest for Padme, and then in the comics he runs into Sabe, her old handmaiden, so it's like there's so much Vader, and then and what we haven't seen, to be honest, only glimpses in the comics really, in one book called Lords of the Sith, his relationship with Palpatine. Like we saw and heard about that relationship as they grew in the prequels, like how much he groomed obviously Anakin to become his apprentice.
Yeah.
But how was their relationship throughout this age of the Empire? Because there's a lot of hints, in some of the publications that they actually didn't get along. It's like he just did his bidding, but he was finding ways to figure out how to overtake him, just like every Sith does.
That's what I was going to say. It's the way of the Sith. Yeah. How do I kill my master?
and again, how to, find peace with Padme. Again, not knowing at all that he had twinned kids out there, right? So, we
saw a little bit of it too at the end of the Obi-Wan series.
Absolutely.
Like, when the Emperor said, "You must give up this quest for Obi-Wan," and he said, "Yes, my master." That's the end of it. I mean, there's a hint right there of what their relationship is like.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's definitely hints. But I hear you about Rey, because I think the sequels, if they were more successful, then for one, I think we would have gotten something from Rey, something with Rey in it a lot quicker.
If we had one creative mind behind all of them instead of so many different perspectives, each taking their turn at a movie, like that was the biggest problem, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
But again, my only perspective is that we have so many different areas of the timeline we can go to. Rey's story can continue from the sequels, and that nobody else can touch that. That's her area. That's her story. Vader and Obi-Wan, they have their time period that we can continue telling more stories in. So, I mean, Star Wars can try all these directions. Some might be successful, some might not be. I mean, we're talking about going all the way back to the Old Republic or the beginning, like Light of the Jedi or whatever it's called. Like, we're going all the way back. All right. So they've got so many different angles that they're going to be able to take a look at and find out what is going to be successful. But where I agree with you is, what is the hottest commodity right now? Definitely Vader and Obi-Wan, for sure. I can't argue with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And they need, I mean, like you said, Mandalorian and Grogu is a big gamble because they need a cinematic hit.
Yeah.
Because, unfortunately, what Rey in the sequel trilogy also suffered from was the complete, bomb that was Solo in the theaters.
That hurts everything.
Yeah. So, it was unfortunate that didn't do well. And so that kind of had a lingering effect going into The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
But, Solo suffered because of The Last Jedi. So, it's like
a domino effect.
Yeah, the domino effect, of hate and cancellation of it, just because people didn't agree with with the way it went. But you can't argue that these characters weren't very that weren't good. They were good characters. I think it just came down to the overall stories a little bit. So,
I mean, another angle I just thought of too. I mean, some of the stories we wanted with Luke was him and R2-D2 adventuring the galaxy together.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got Rey and BB-8. They could go off and adventure the galaxy together. It's the same kind of feeling, but away we go. It's just it back to Mando and Grogu. Like, if that, I really feel like there's no way that's going to be a failure. The TV show is so successful that people are going to be just excited to see them again and get to go see them on the big screen. It's going to be a hit, whether it's good or bad. Like, and you got to trust Favreau and Filoni. There's no way they're going to let this be a failure.
Yeah,
it's going to be good.
I think so.
Look what they did with this characters for 3 seasons. Like, it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, you've got a long way to go. I mean, we're talking May of 2026. So
for Mando and Grogu?
Yeah. So there's a lot that could happen with Star Wars that might turn some people off. So
and did you hear in the news the last couple of days that the standalone Rey movie has now been taken off the release schedule?
That's right. Yep.
This is after they just replaced the writer and now they took it right off the schedule. So who knows what's going on?
Yeah. And that was December of 2026. So that was going to be after Mandalorian and Grogu in a way. But, we've got a couple of Disney Plus shows coming out. Skeleton Crew, obviously, second season of Andor. Yeah. I don't know. There might be an animated show that pops up between there, but I don't know if there's anything else besides that going into. So it might be that Lucasfilm is trying to build up the anticipation but not releasing much. And so you're almost like, God, I need to go see this movie because I'm dying for some Star Wars.
I mean, that's part of the problem was oversaturating the market too.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Take it all back and make people want it again.
That's right. That's more Bob Iger, the CEO, the returning CEO. That's more of his game plan. I think is better.
Makes sense, man.
So we will see, but I think our answers are Rey and Vader. I think that's where we've kind of landed on. Yeah. So,
I mean, talking about the saturation, I mean, it's happening with superheroes right now. With all of the Marvel movies and the DC movies, like the market got saturated with superhero stuff, and people are getting tired of it. That's why the last 4 or 5 movies have really been declining in success. So, Star Wars maybe isn't as bad as that, but there was a lot. Are you
talking about the Marvel movies?
All superhero stuff, even the TV shows, all superhero stuff. It's on a decline because it's just been too much for so long, and people are a little bit superheroed out. So
I also think that Well, and that's a whole nother argument. I also think that we're not using it's all new characters. Like we don't have the original, like the original
Avengers stuff.
The original Avengers characters are not really in it anymore, and I think that was a huge draw.
It honestly hasn't been that good.
Which is again, look what they're doing. They're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. in a different character because they know how he's so popular, right? So,
and I don't know where that sits with me yet.
I don't either.
Yeah,
I've kind of, we'll see if it comes back with some of this stuff that's coming out. They need to bring Spider-Man back, which they will.
Yeah.
All right. I think that was a good topic, good discussion.
Vader and Rey.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Let us know on YouTube or send us some comments. YouTube is probably the only place because this is the only place that you can watch this thing. So, as usual, thanks for joining us. As we said, Skeleton Crew is going to be coming up here soon. So check out the Mandalorian podcast where we deep dive into that. Inside the Force, we'll be talking about it as well. Hannah will give her thoughts on as we follow along that series. And we got 8 episodes of that, 7 weeks because there's a double episode premiere on December 3rd. So
and we just broke down the trailer, so check that most recent episode of Mandalorian.
Yeah, it looks like December 3rd is a Tuesday, so it looks like they're going to be doing the Tuesday night releases again. So pretty cool. All right, as always, thanks for joining me on these council sessions, Martin.
It's always fun, man.
Yeah, good topic, and we'll be back for more council sessions. Of course, check out our other shows Beyond the Saga, where Hannah and I deep dive in our the expanded publications out there with the comics and the books. And keep checking back here each week for Inside the Force. We will see you all next time. May the Force be with you.